May 25th, 1977, George Lucas directs a film called Star Wars: A New Hope. Fast forward 42 years later, on December 19, 2019, I'm talking about the 9th film in that saga, Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, directed by J.J. Abrams. He's wrapping up the saga. Does he stick the landing? Well, we're going to talk about that and much more. Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker was directed by J.J. Abrams and stars Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, Adam Driver, Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, and Oscar Isaac. The surviving resistance faces the First Order once more in the final chapter of the Skywalker saga. What's going on, everybody? Elliot back again with a brand new review, and tonight we are talking about Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, the 9th film in the Skywalker saga. Very excited to talk about this film with you all. This is a spoiler-free, no spoilers whatsoever in this review. I will be doing a spoiler review probably in the next couple days, but tonight we're not spoiling anything. We're just going to talk about my initial thoughts, my pros and my cons, as it's 2:14 in the morning. Very excited to be here with you all. But before we dive into the spoiler-free review, definitely consider subscribing to my channel. Hit that bell so you can stay up to date with all my movie reviews, TV reviews, unboxings, giveaways, and all the fun things we do on this very channel. And if and when you've seen Rise of Skywalker, let's have some conversations in the comments below, whether it be the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's just have a discussion. Now, keep in mind, the only caveat I have in the comment section is just be nice to one another. There's no need to attack someone for liking the film or not liking the film. Let's just have a good conversation. Why don't we, in the comments there. So let's get into it, So as I want to start off this review, because I know this is one of the, if not the biggest franchise of all time, one of the biggest. And, as a fan of Star Wars, I'm going to say I am a fan of the franchise. I've seen all the films. I own all the films. I'm not a diehard per se. I don't know how you would maybe rate a person be a diehard fan, but I don't read the novels. I don't read the comics. I haven't watched an episode of Rebels or Clone Wars, but I enjoy the films. I spend money on the apparel. I buy the movies. I go to see the movies opening night. I review the movies at 2 a.m. in the morning. So I'm a fan of the film, but I go into Star Wars just looking for a good time, just having a good time, enjoying some fun characters, going on a space journey in the galaxy far, far away. And that's where my review's going at tonight. I'm going to leave the more spoiler discussions in that review I'm going to do in a couple days, where I'm going to talk more on the saga and did this film fit within this trilogy and how did it shape up and how did it, end the chapter. But in this review, I just want to talk about the self-contained film that we got in this film, in The Rise of Skywalker. So let's start off with the positive. So one of the things that led me into this franchise, and one of the things I love about the franchise, are the characters. So let's start off with the positive in the characters. Again, you have some people from the original trilogy, whether it be a Carrie Fisher, which personally, I'm going to say right off top, I thought that they did the best job they could in the situation with Carrie Fisher passing, and using some of the footage from The Force Awakens and using some unused footage from Last Jedi and kind of shaping a story around her. I thought that they did a good job in that. But let's talk about, the main characters and what led this particular movie, which was Rise of Skywalker, in this particular franchise. I have to say, guys, for me personally, Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver, this was the best acting. This might be a hot take, the best acting I've seen in any Star Wars film. And again, I love the trilogies. I love the originals near and dear to my heart. I have some appreciation for the prequels. Not all of them work for me, but I appreciate what George Lucas was trying to do and dive into the politics and kind of the world building. Some of it was a little bit of a boring. Some of the stuff went a little left, a little right here and there, but, I appreciate them. But, one of the things that I have to say about this film, again, is Daisy Ridley as Rey, as this character that I really love. And I love kind of the background of Rey and kind of how this person that came from nothing can become something and has certain legacies and have certain things that's planned out for her, and she goes a little bit different to that. I really appreciate the character from Rey, and I thought that Daisy Ridley gave the best performance as Rey so far. Who knows if we're going to ever see her again in the rest of the franchise. Who knows where the franchise goes in 5 or 10 years, but as far as this movie goes, I really enjoyed Rey's journey in this film. I thought that the acting from Daisy Ridley from top to bottom was phenomenal. Sure, there was some character moments that I didn't really per se like that was given to Rey, but regardless of that, I thought that Daisy really did a great job. And on the reverse of that, this new trilogy has been focusing on Kylo Ren and Rey, and I thought Adam Driver, who has just become one of the best actors in this decade. You have your Christian Bales, you have, an up-and-comer like a Robert Pattinson, you have, all these great actors that this is not coming to mind right now, but just thinking of those two, I put Adam Driver right up there. I mean, I think he's one of the best actors working today. Just recently seeing Marriage Story a couple weeks ago, and then leading into this big franchise film. Him as Kylo Ren, man, especially in this film in particular, I thought that he gave a hell of a performance, and the duality of the character and the complexity of the character, and kind of seeing this other side and this more vulnerable side of Kylo Ren, I thought was played beautifully by Adam Driver. And again, the dynamic between Rey and Kylo Ren, this was the best I've seen him in the franchise, and I loved them in The Force Awakens, and I like what they did in Last Jedi for the most part. But this film really has some stuff for those characters that I really enjoyed. Some other characters that led the franchise in this new trilogy, you have your John Boyega, who had some stuff in The Last Jedi that I wish didn't really happen to him, and I wish he was more focused on that main story, but I thought that they did JJ did a good job of kind of reeling that character in and giving him some more to do. And one of the things that really worked for me in this film is the pack, seeing the crew together, seeing Poe, Finn, Rey, Chewbacca, R2-D2, 3PC, all of them together was so cool, and the dynamic. I wish we would have got more of that in this trilogy, but again, like I said up top, I'm going to keep it in this film. What we get in this film, I really enjoyed their dynamic. And like I had mentioned, I thought John Boyega got a little bit more to do in this movie, and we got a little bit of backstory from him, and had some other characters that he can relate to, and had some good moments with. But I really enjoyed Finn's journey that we get within this film, as well as, Oscar Isaac as Poe, who definitely has more to do in this movie than he did in the last one. It has some more responsibilities, and the character's challenged at times, and I really enjoyed his performance as well. And of course, we get the banter between Poe and Finn, and again, seeing Poe interact with Rey for the first time in the franchise. I really enjoyed those moments as well. So as like I said up top, the characters are really what I love about Star Wars. Your Luke Skywalkers, your Leias, your Han Solos, your Chewies, all the characters that we get, your Darth Vaders. This is what the franchise built upon, is these legacy, bigger-than-life characters, and I thought that the characters in this film did a great job. Without, the characters, and some other things I've taken away from this film is, regardless of what you say about the story, which we'll talk a little bit about later, but I thought the action was really well done in this movie. And in particular, without spoiling anything, this is in the trailer, there's a fight sequence, a lightsaber battle between Rey and Kylo on this ship, and there's water going on, and that scene is just beautiful. I wish the score was a little bit more influenced in that scene, but it was just a well-done action sequence, and there's a lot of great action, great moments in this film, crowd-pleasing moments in my opinion, as well as some of the, the comedy, which, some people like the comedy in Star Wars, other people don't, but I thought this film definitely landed most of the jokes. C-3PO had some really good moments. There's some creatures that had some good moments, some droids, and also our human characters. Obviously, I thought the comedy landed for the most part. And again, there's a lot of crowd-pleasing moments. But I got to mention, before I wrap up and kind of talk about my criticisms, J.J. Abrams, this is the first time that J.J.'s had the opportunity to kind of close out a chapter. A lot of his films, he brings the films to the forefront. He brought The Force Awakens back. He brought Star Trek back, and he came in and did a Mission Impossible 3. So he's always kind of the starter or the middle piece player. This is his first time closing on a chapter. And, I'll talk about it more in my spoilers, but for the most part, I thought JJ did in The Force Awakens, he keeps his story in a safe, kind of cuddled environment. He doesn't really like to take too many zigs and zags, and when he does, it worked at times, but for the most part, I'm going to commend J.J. Abrams for, again, kind of doing something that some people might not like. He definitely made a sequel to his Force Awakens and paid homage to The Last Jedi and closed up some of those things that were brought up. But for the most part, I thought JJ did a great job in his, because this, again, name another director that would have took on this challenge. There was another director, and he got cut from the roster there, and Colin Trevorrow, and and things of that nature. So I thought JJ did the best that he could, and I thought that he might not be the biggest risk taker out there, but I enjoyed what he had to do in this film. And again, I think he did a good job of wrapping up the saga, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in my spoiler review. But transitioning here into my cons, the story at time did feel rushed. I would definitely say, in particularly like the first act, and definitely probably like the last 20 minutes or so didn't sit too well for me, but there are moments in that second act and there's moments, throughout the film that I really enjoyed, but I feel like there was a rushness of the storyline at times, and there were definitely, again, don't want to touch too much on the saga and the previous films, but there were some unanswered questions that weren't necessarily appeasing for me as a fan, but in particularly in this story, there were some things that I just didn't think wrapped up pretty well, and we'll talk about that later in my spoiler review. But without spoiling too much, there was some characters that didn't really sit well with me. In particular, the Emperor being brought back and his plans and how he was brought back was a little unanswered and it didn't really work for me entirely. And I'll leave that to my spoiler review. The reveals. There were some big surprises, which we all know Star Wars is kind of known for the big surprises. One of the biggest surprises of all time is in The Empire Strikes Back. But the reveals in this film felt very predictable, and I'll just leave it at that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But there were some other issues in regards to the plot. There were some MacGuffins in this film that I just felt like were unnecessary completely. And there's definitely some characters in the film that I wish we would have got a little bit more time with, and they were definitely just used for more of a merchandising and toys, which Star Wars is known for. This franchise was kind of known for creating toys and all that stuff, but there were definitely some characters in this movie that I wish would have got a little bit more screen time instead of for being like kind of eye candy, if you want to call it that. But I'll just leave it at that. So, and also too, as I had mentioned, I did like what Poe and Finn had to do in this film, but I wish we would have got a little bit more time in regards to their backstory. But again, that's just a minor thing. But definitely, I would say the plot issues, some of the character decisions, the Emperor and things like that, I wish were done, we're spent a little bit more time on. So with that just kind of being said, this is my non-spoiler review. Again, it's 2:30 in the morning. I still am processing this film, and overall thoughts, I didn't hate this film as some of the reviews have been. I haven't read a lot of reviews, but I've seen the mixed bag of reviews thus far, and I know some people really hate it and think it's the worst Star Wars film of all time. I don't think that. I also didn't love this film. I'm kind of right in the middle. I really enjoyed this film, and I'm excited to see more of it. I'm definitely going to watch it again probably next coming days, but as far as my score for this film tonight, as it sits at 2:30 in the morning, close to 2:30, I'm going to give this film a 3.8 out of 5, with the caveat that the score might be fluctuated after I kind of sit down with my notes and write my spoiler review. But right now, I'm sitting at around a 3.8 out of 5. I really enjoyed this film. I'm not going to rank it right now. That's probably for another video for another time. But overall, I saw it in IMAX. The crowd was enjoying it. I enjoyed it. There were some moments that worked for me, and I loved in regards to some of the action set pieces. The character moments, again, the Kylo Ren and Rey storyline really worked for me. And like I said, I think this is some of the best acting in a Star Wars film. But there were some moments with the Emperor, some unanswered questions that weren't answered. There were some characters I felt were underdeveloped, and there were some plot issues and some storylines that didn't really sit well with me. But I'm going to talk about that more in my spoiler review. But again, 3.8 out of 5 for me. I recommend you all check it out without a doubt. And if you get the chance, see it in IMAX. So that is some beautiful scenes in this movie. But there you have it. That's my spoiler-free thoughts on Rise of Skywalker. Like, share, and comment below your thoughts. Again, just be nice to one another in the comment section. Follow me on my social media accounts. Keep an eye out for some videos I got coming up this weekend from the world of TV. I got The Witcher that I'm going to be reviewing. The Apple TV Plus shows, like The Morning Show has its season finale. Servants coming out again. So I'm going to be doing those reviews this weekend. And then probably either on Monday or Tuesday, I'm going to have my spoiler review for this film. So again, thank you all for watching this review, and we'll see you in the next video.